Pleasure to be here. Thanks again, RIU, for the opportunity. The majority of the talk today will be on a couple of issues. We are an established explorer, 1.15 million ounces in the resource currently, and I want to spend the majority of the time going over what 60,000 metres of drilling in this last 12 months has delivered us, and our major leap forward with respect to some technology, some application of gravity, and what that is going to mean for the first half of the year, where we've got 32,000 metres of drilling planned. All of that is planned at the Cardinia project, but we have a couple of other outlying projects that sit within the portfolio. But I'll just set the scene with a bit of background on the company, where the projects sit. So they're all up in this Leonora zone. The Cardinia at the centre of those concentric circles, 436 square kilometres of land package, and we have a couple of joint ventures just south of Leonora with Genesis and with Sensor, where they are earning in over this next 2 or 3 years, and a couple of 3 or 4 satellite projects, both east of Leonora and to the north of Leonora. But the main focus of the company for the last 2.5 years has been this Cardinia project. The shareholder group and the corporate slide indicate we're about 100 million EV project, 111 million market cap today, $14.3 million in the bank, and our shareholder base is slightly unusual in that 52% of the stock is owned by the top 4 shareholders, some of the most active investors in the West Australian resources industry, in fact the Australian resources industry. And you can see the share price graph. This time last year, standing here in front of Jerry and this crowd, we were 4 cents. We've been up through 20, and on the back of the $15 million capital raising that we're part way through, we've come back like much of the industry has come back over this last 3 or 4 months, with slight reductions in the gold price. So we're sitting at that 14 to 16 cent range currently. Just a note on the capital raising, we did a $12 million placement that was heavily subscribed for by existing shareholders, as well as a block from Euroz Hartleys, and we have a $3 million SPP running that will close on Friday week. So I would encourage retail investors, if they're interested in chipping in, that they be quick for that. It was heavily backed in the last 2 days, so it's only been open 2 days. So those who are quick will get a favourable look in. The management team and the board, well versed in the industry itself. I won't spend a lot of time on this because we're all the same people as we were last year and the year before, so not a great deal of change there. This is the Maneri Greenstone Belt for the Cardinia project. As I said, 35 k's northeast of Leonora. I want to focus on this East Lynn, Cardinia Hill, Helens area, where the gravity survey has revealed a whole raft of interesting geology and interesting association between the high-grade mineralisation and some of the intrusions that we're able to pick out in the gravity. So that's the magnetics picture, which the bottom half of that slide is strongly demagnetised. So that bottom half is a big alteration zone where the ultramafic unit that runs up the middle of it has been completely demagnetised. So we have a number of indicators in this region of significant mineralisation up and down this belt, and I'd like to try and put that into context for investors and for the technical people in the room. This is the gravity survey, and we've windowed right in here. So the north-south is about 3 kilometres, the east-west's 1.5 kilometres. Haynes Gravity did the groundwork for this in December. We received the data in January. The light blue zones are all intrusives, unable to be mapped in the magnetics, and you can see the association between the high-grade intersections that we get at Helens and the high-grade intersections at Cardinia Hill, and these older things called Fiona all around this, these low gravity zones that sit in here. It's a very detailed survey. It was done at 50 metre by 25, so substantially more detailed than is usually done in the eastern goldfields. And importantly, I think it's worthwhile noting that some of the deeper intersections that we have at Helens, Cardinia Hill and Fiona are substantial widths in the 8 to 21 metre intersections in the 3.5 to 6 gram range, so with a couple of standouts higher than that. So certainly at depth, and the Helens one is the one that has the deepest drilling in it from 266 metres, so certainly at depth there is strong, reasonable mining widths down to plus 200 metres, but the vast majority of the drilling here is very shallow. Helens and Cardinia Hill are the only two exceptions, and there's virtually no other drilling below about 75 metres. Another closest picture of the gravity, and this is Cardinia Hill, discovered in February last year in air core drilling, regional air core drilling at 200 and 400 metre line spacings. We've converted that to 61,000 ounces in resource so far. There's been a number of strong 15 to 20 metre intersections in the 2 to 6 gram range within that, but you can see in the picture the relationship between the low gravity felsic intrusion on the right hand side and the higher gravity mafic rocks on the left hand side. And this zone, while we have defined it over 600 metres, another 400 and 500 metres north, there are similar intersections in air core that previously, prior to the gravity, we weren't able to connect together systematically, and they appear to just follow this channel of boundary between the low gravity and the high gravity, and so we think that this shear zone based mineralisation that we see at Cardinia Hill is a direct relationship between the intrusion that's coming up that pre-existing shear zone that was potentially mineralised by the intrusion itself. So lots of opportunity for pretty simple now exploration just to step out along where the structure is able to be followed in the gravity survey. A slight window out to this project area that I've called the Eastern Corridor. So what we were just looking at was Helens here, Cardinia Hill. The yellow polygons are all the soil geochemistry. This is the interpretation of that area that we've done with detailed gravity. So we're favouring much more north-south faults and a series of intrusions shown in pink, and some mafic intrusions as well shown in green. And we think that we now have mapped reasonably accurately all the structure on which all these high-grade intersections sit, but previously we weren't able to link them all together systematically. This extends all the way up to a project called East Lynn, which was drilled with broad-spaced air core last year, and we now have a somewhat different interpretation of East Lynn, where we believed it was a 5 or 6 kilometre long anomalous zone. We expect it to become 3 or 4 much higher grade, but slightly smaller than the large target that we originally imagined it to be, as we extend the gravity survey and reinterpret the intersections that we have there in that very early stage drilling. A couple of things to note here. This isn't your standard Eastern Goldfields shear zone style mineralisation. It's rich in this alteration of silver, arsenic, copper, molybdenum, and tellurium, antimony, tungsten, etc. And we have multi-element soil geochemistries across this whole project area, so we're using that multi-element soil geochemistry much more effectively than we were previously. And now we're coupling it with this newer structural and intrusion model that we think hopefully holds the secret to discovering some of these major deposits that we think sit within this. East Lynn, I'll touch on it quickly just to assure people that we haven't gone to sleep on East Lynn. It was a headline project for us in the middle of the year, it's taken a bit of a back seat, but it's a large project spread over 3.5 kilometres north of where the gravity survey is. There's a number of intersections, some quite high grade, but we weren't able to piece it together. But I expect as we extend the gravity, we'll be able to piece this together much more effectively. The original project that Cardinia was founded on was this Bruno Lewis project. It contains 311,000 ounces. It'll have a 10 million tonnes at just above a gram. It'll have a mineral resource update based on the latest drilling that was done in December and the results were received in January. A number of good intersections in that, and we were targeting these north-west, southeast structures called the Bruno lodes. There's an awful lot of drilling in Bruno. There's about 5,000 drill holes on that picture that you see there. Lots and lots of those were 8x6 grade control drilling that was done by Navigator back in the 90s to try and get a handle on this project. So many people have struggled with this project in interpreting it and getting an understanding of it. We think we're reasonably advanced in that, and we're going to be doing this detailed gravity over this again. There's a suggestion that in this sort of northern block, Bruno lodes, these porphyry intrusions are a significant contributor. We're logging those in the core. We're now able to see the difference between the porphyry intrusion, the felsic porphyry intrusion, and the felsic volcanics that host the entire deposit. So it's coming together on this project, and we, as I mentioned, we'll put out a new resource estimate for that with a new interpretation in the March quarter. We also have some early stage projects, and we're generally heading to the west here across the project. This one called Eagle/Crow. It lies a couple of kilometres to the west of Bruno Lewis, and about a K to the west of a small project called Kite. It's had some historical drilling, air core and RC under old workings, and that was the extent of the exploration done on that for the last 20 years. We've done the multi-element soil geochemistry, come up with a large 6 kilometre long geochemical anomaly. It's rich in gold and silver and antimony. It has some spot highs in the other pathfinders, tellurium and tungsten. But we're there now with our air core rig drilling 400 metre and 200 metre line spaced across the gold anomaly that sits there. Hopefully we'll be able to turn up some worthwhile additional targets, and if we're able to do that, then we'll follow that with another gravity survey because I'm sure that what we're seeing on the eastern side will be replicated on the western side as we go up the sequence. We're starting to see these north-south faults and potential intrusions that drive the mineralisation across the whole of the project area, not just in the eastern corridor. This is an overview of that sort of central Cardinia area. Scale here, it's about 10 kilometres north-south by 6 kilometres east-west. I've highlighted there the eastern corridor where the gravity survey has been undertaken. And we'll be covering that entire area with detailed gravity over this next 3, 4, 5 months, just to give us a comprehensive view of what that whole zone has in terms of north-south faults and these intrusions. It's worthwhile noting a couple of features. This unit, and this is magnetics, highly magnetic ultramafic unit, and then the ultramafic unit's able to be logged in drill core and RC drilling all the way down here, but you can see the difference in the magnetic signature of it, because our belief is this whole area is a large alteration halo sitting above a big stock that has then driven these smaller intrusions, whether they be felsic or dacitic or dikes or sills, up through that whole rock mass. So it's really opened our eyes a bit to what the entire project might hold, and some of these areas to the north where there's little drilling at all certainly come into view because the cover's a bit thicker there, and when I say cover's a bit thicker, it's 3 to 10 metres in that area. They're certainly coming on the radar screen, and I'm sure that there will be projects turn up there over this next little while as the gravity is extended and we get a much more detailed view of what the structure of the whole project is. We've been searching for an analogy for Cardinia for quite a while. We think with this structural model associated with the intrusions that the Carasue Dam project is probably the closest analogy. Carasue sits about 160 k's to the southeast of us along that Keith Kilkenny zone. So the Keith Kilkenny is a major crustal depth shear. The Carasue area has the same fault system, so it sits on Keith Kilkenny. It has the same types of intrusions that we've got. It has the same alteration suite, that multi-element suite. It has that same mineralisation style. So, and Carasue's 3 million ounces production and reserves, been operating for 20 years. This year they'll do somewhere between 200,000 and 220,000 ounces according to Saracen and Northern Star. So if we're even find half a Carasue, we'll be very happy with that. But we think that whole Mineary Greenstone belt, in particular the Cardinia area, certainly has that sort of potential, and that's the prize that we're chasing now. Quick summary. We're reasonably mature. We have a much better understanding now of what we're dealing with at Cardinia. There's new targets being generated as we speak. We're out in the field with 3 drill rigs as of this morning. We have a full contingent of geologists and field crew operating that. So we're looking forward to strong news flow over this March quarter and a new resource estimate coming out at the end of March. Thank you for your attention. I'm at the booth as my exploration manager and senior geologist, so if you want to come by and have a chat, we're more than happy to take some questions there. Thanks, Derek.